Imagine waking up one morning and seeing a 4-meter tall sloth casually walking through a forest. The restest of the morned, not in a museum, within real life. Or imagine hearing footsteps so heavy the ground literally shakes beneath you. Then a giant mammoth in thick fur slowly emerges from the fog. As ridiculous as it sounds, humans actually lived alongside creatures like these. We imagined ancient humans fighting tiny animals with sticks and stones. But reality was far stranger. The world our ancestors lived in looked less like history and more like a fantasy game designed by someone completely insane. There were giant sloths the size of elephants. You were time massive armored unasses that looked like living tanks. You opened taller than Umife. Wolves larger than modern lions. And giant snakeable of swallowing terrifyingly large prey whole. The crazy bomb on board. You with humans bred nonentities with basically no technology. That had your mubbird. For mind and 6 diet. No vehicles. Just fire teamwork and extreme confidence. Around 10,000 to 50,000 years ago, Earth was filled with what scientists call megafauna. The animals so massive they almost look fake today. One of the most famous was the woolly mammoth. Imagine an elephant but built for the Ice Age. The pristine thick fur. You open so long for than some humans are tall. They're weighing up to 6 tons. Now imagine hunting one using wooden spears, which sounds less like survival and more like humanity collectively making terrible decisions. This were moments of find your maneuver. In South America, humans encountered giant ground sloths. These could grow over 6 meters long and weigh several tons. These open you sloth tembide. Now remove all cuteness and replace it with pure prehistoric nightmare fuel. Some scientists believe they could stand upright like giant bears, which is exactly the kind of information nobody wants before going to sleep. This was a land we used the glyptodon, a creature that basically looked like a Volkswagen Beetle crossed with a turtle. It had heavy armor its body and a giant clubbed tail capable of smashing predators. Ancient humans actually hunted these things, which raises an important question. How desperate to be to attack a living tank with a rock. And then there were the birds. You was not small birds. You were not annoying or raftient. You giant birds taller than humans that could outrun many predators. Some ancient birds were so massive they looked like feathered dinosaurs refusing to go extinct. In Australia, giant reptiles dominated parts of the landscape. Massive monitor lizards larger than crocodiles. You imagine trying to sleep at night, knowing a lizard the size of a car might exist nearby. Gone for modern of murmur. Ancient humans had much bigger problems, and somehow we survived all of it. Which becomes even stranger when you realize and humans were physically weaker than many predators around them. We weren't the fastest, which you manangle twandest. We didn't have claws or armor. So why didn't humanity go extinct? Because humans evolved something more dangerous than strength. With youth and Gin and Lucinda, a single human was weak, but groups of humans became terrifying. You were not number nigher. You opers a bland hunts. The hunter forbetindry. And perhaps most importantly, we adapted faster than anything else on Earth. While giant animals relied on size and power, humans relied on size and power. And over time, intelligence turned out to be far more deadly. For insect, in fact, some scientists believe humans became so effective at hunting that we may have helped drive many giant species into extinction. Which is both impressive and slightly horrifying. Imagine being a mammoth, watching tiny hairless monkeys slowly become the planet's most dangerous predator. At first, they throw rocks. The opals I mombers. The roboted men traps. Then entires memorizations. You hearst in nuts first, afores of the menady. In moan and your hasted. And maybe that's the strangest part of all. For a brief moment in history, humans shared the planet with creatures so enormous and bizarre they barely seem real today. The giant sloths, mammoths, massive armored beasts, creatures that once walked the same earth opens waif. And somehow against all odds, the tiny fragile ape survived. Not because we were stronger than the monsters around us, but because we learned down another's voice.